Hey yo, salute to all my subscribers. Shout out to everybody else passing through. YouTube, what's good, yo? Hey yo, y'all see the title, so y'all know what I'm here for. Ladies, a lot of y'all wondering why it takes men so long when you're in a relationship with us to actually get to the point where we're ready to actually settle down and get married. There's a few answers to this question. It comes up a lot. People have been hitting me up on Twitter wanting me to do a video about it, so let's get into it. Now, there's a few reasons. For what I can see, I mean, I've been a man for 33 years, and in my circles, I've come across more than enough men who, either jump from relationship to relationship, they're habitual daters, or they've been in long-term relationships, and they've found the person that they might consider to be the right person for them, but they haven't settled down. 2 years go by, 5 years go by, 10 years go by, and sometimes even more than that. Here's the number one problem for all of you women who get into a relationship with the end game of you want it to go somewhere. And by go somewhere, obviously, start a family, settle down, but ultimately get married. Regardless of whatever order you see that vision for yourself. Whether you want to have your career, have kids, get married later, or get married, then have your kids. Whatever the sequence of events, the majority of women who get into relationships and who are in a relationship anything after a year and a half are strongly considering marrying that person that they're with, or you probably wouldn't be with that dude for that long. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think a lot of you women go wrong with. And I'm gonna put it to you women for the purpose of this video, because this topic is specifically pertaining to why more men aren't stepping up and settling down and getting married to the women that they've been with for multiple years. But what I'm gonna say is a blanket statement, can apply to anyone, regardless of the gender. The bottom line is this. This is the number one reason why a lot of you women are over 2 years, over 5 years, 7, and even some 10 years into a relationship, still not married to the person that you've been with for all these years. Number one reason is women. You guys have to understand. Any man that you're with, I don't care how good that man is, I don't care how well-intentioned that man is, for the most part, if you don't set certain requirements for a man that you're with, that you expressly lay out in the beginning stages of that relationship, then that man is not going to be motivated or feel any type of pressure to abide by any rules that you don't set out for a relationship. The first thing you women have to understand is, I don't care your age, I don't care how experienced you are, I don't care what type of woman you are or what type of dude you're with. As a woman, you set the tone for the relationship. What do I mean by that? There's only so many men to go around. I mean, women, you women outnumber us in the world easily 2-1. Easily 2-1. Here's the thing though. We're not, the majority of us are looking for you. Like, the average woman is not walking up to a dude on the street and sparking up conversation and ultimately trying to convince that dude to be in a relationship with her. Usually it's the other way around. So what happens is, when the majority of men get into a relationship with you, what they're looking to see right off the bat is the type of female you are, what type of personality let's talk about this. This is a big thing. Most women, when they meet a man that they potentially are thinking about dating, you're looking for, if you're a pretty well-rounded woman with a head on your shoulders, and you're about substance and not just about how much somebody makes, what kind of car they have, or material possessions. Most women, when they're considering dating a dude that they meet, You're looking for the good qualities and potential traits in that man that you could potentially see in a husband or a father of your kids. Most men, when we meet a female, and I throw myself in the category just by default because I'm a man and I'm speaking about men. Most of us, when we meet the average woman on the street or wherever, we're doing a different type of homework. We're looking to see what personality traits you lack. We're looking to see what weaknesses you have, because there's a different goal or end game when the average man meets a woman as opposed to when the average woman meets a man. So the average woman meets a man, you're looking for potential positives that will motivate you to want to better get to know that person. The average man meets a woman, we're looking for whatever weaknesses we can penetrate in order to penetrate. See what I did there? Hold on, I got y'all. So here's the thing. The relationship part, that's never really a dude's end game. It comes later. I hate to make it sound like it's a mind game or some fucked up thing, but dudes don't really, our angle is never really to get into a relationship. We fall into that shit. It happens by default because we understand that the natural process is, if we get so far with you, we understand that at some point, if we're even remotely open to settling down in a relationship, we understand that that's just a natural progression that's going to happen. And if we're at all open to it, then we'll allow that relationship to take its natural course. But we're not thinking about marriage at all. I mean, 7 out of 10 men, if they could meet you, have sex with you, on a consistent basis, talk to you, go out with you every now and then, 7 out of 10 men would never get into a relationship. Why bother? We're not really built for that type of commitment. We're not set up like that by default. We do it because we understand, for the most part. I mean, we have to. And yeah, there are men out there who are looking for loyalty and a good woman and somebody they can settle down with after they're done playing the game and after they feel like their player cards are all played out. But even once we do find a good girl that we want to settle down with, we're not thinking about marriage. I mean, for most men, even having a woman that they're with, like in a live-in situation with them, for most men, that's all the commitment they feel they ever really have to give you. Because they feel like if they're doing the right thing, if you guys are good, they're coming home every day, you're coming home every day, you guys have a good relationship, and you're building on that relationship, most men would ask the question, what's the point of getting married? I mean, it's no different than what we already have right now. And it's a game, but it's not a game. If we can avoid having to be tied down by a piece of paper that says that we are married, you have my last name, this is I'm here, can't go anywhere, can't do anything. If we can avoid that, we will. And by avoiding it, we won't bring it up. And the mistake that you women make is you get into your own heads early on in a relationship, and so you think that if you mention something like marriage too early, you'll scare a dude away. But here's what you women aren't thinking about. If you can scare a man away in the earlier stages of a relationship with the marriage conversation, then that's not the dude that you should be in a relationship with if marriage is the reason for why you're in the dating pool. Because there's different stages. There are women who are just looking to date and not really thinking about that type of commitment at whatever point in their life. But if you're at a point in your life where you're like, okay, I'm going to start dating now with the goal of finding someone that potentially I want to settle down with, get married, start a family, whatever. If that's the reason for why you're getting into any relationship, then you have to bring that conversation up in the beginning stages of that relationship. If you don't, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because if we can get away with getting 10 years of wifely duties out of you without having to give up our last name, believe we're going to do that shit. And it's nothing against you personally. It's not like we're sitting there saying, yo, how can I figure out how to keep this chick with me, faithful, cook for me, clean for me, do all of these wifely duties, but not actually make her my wife. That's not really what's at the forefront of our mind. We're just not even thinking about it. But most dudes, if they realize they have a decent woman or potentially a decent woman, and you bring up things that you're looking for in the beginning stages of a relationship, then they're gonna go into that relationship knowing in their mind that, yo, this is a woman who has her standards set out, who has already set guidelines for the relationship. So I'm coming into the relationship knowing full well what it is I'm planning on doing, because I know what I can and can't get away with. I think a lot of you women lack the understanding of setting barriers and guidelines for the relationship. That's your birthright to do. If you don't set a barrier or a guideline for a man when they meet you, you can't introduce that guideline later because we won't respect it. We just won't. It's just the way it is. Now, I'm not saying you meet a dude out somewhere, you exchange numbers or whatever, you go out on 2 or 3 dates, and you're talking about, yo, so what, like how soon or how long is it going to take for you to start thinking about marriage? That's not really something that you should be bringing up on a after a few dates. But once you sit down with someone, because here's what the problem is too, as I see it, a lot of relationships are getting started without express consent from the two people getting into the relationships. Like, let's be real. Let's go through the natural course of events. You meet a dude, y'all talking for however long. Typically what happens is, pardon me. Typically what happens is y'all talking, y'all dating, y'all doing whatever it is y'all do, and then somehow you just fall into a relationship. You go from talking on the phone, going out a few times, to spending more time together, maybe spending a few nights together. You might not move in for a while, y'all might just be dating, but the relationship just creeps up. It just happens. It's not often that two adults actually sit down and say, okay, yo, what are we doing? This is what's going on. We've been seeing each other for however long. We've been dating for however long. What's the next step in this thing? Is this something that we're going to be doing exclusively? Is this something that we're just going to be doing for now? Like, what's going on? That don't really happen these days the way that it used to. It used to be when you started getting remotely serious about someone, you sat down to have a conversation, and it was actually said and agreed upon, or it was even asked that, we're now an exclusive, we now consider ourselves to be an exclusive couple. That's not really happening these days anymore. What's happening now is, like I just said, you're just meeting someone, and just through the natural occurrence of things in order, you turn around one day and it's, okay, I guess we're in a relationship. But the conversation is never really had. And if that conversation is never had, then you can't really expect that dude to see that relationship in a serious way, even if you do. Because you have to be, one thing about a lot of men, you have to be upfront with us about what your intentions are. Because I notice, all through the social media world, that you women, a lot of you women, take issue with when a man is not upfront with you about what his intentions for you might be getting into that relationship, or if he even wants to or intends to get into a relationship with you. A lot of you women hold that against us, but that's not our job. It's not the man's job to be forthcoming with you about his intentions, because just by nature of how we are wired and how we operate, when we're introducing ourselves to you, trying to, link up with you or get to know you, we're not thinking, oh, look, there goes the future mother of my kids. There goes my future wife. That's not a common occurrence. We're not thinking relationship, walking through the park hand in hand and growing old together. That's not some shit that we dream about as boys growing up. We're not set up that way. It's just not the way it is. But a lot of women are set up that way, and a lot of women do think about all of these things down the line when they meet someone. But I think a lot of you women approach relationships in such a casual way because you don't want to scare away a dude that you might like just because you like him. But yeah, I need to start understanding and being able to differentiate the fact that just because you like someone doesn't mean that you liking them is an indication to you automatically that just because you like that individual, that they're potentially a good fit for you long term. And it's about wasted time. The best way to weed through who's going to be for you and who's not is to do it when you're the least biased that you could possibly be. And you can't be 3 years into a relationship. Now you've invested 3 years of emotions and memories and all these things with this man that you're dealing with. And now you bring up the marriage conversation only to find out that he has no plans on ever getting married. And, he might brush it off the first couple times, and then another year or 2 years will go by. And if you keep bringing it up, by year 5, 6, or 7, when he starts to realize you're serious, he might go out, he might get an engagement ring, he might propose to you or make a promise. But his intentions, for the most part, not all the time, so don't get mad, fellas, but for the most part, he's seeing if he can buy another 2, 3 years out of you, in hopes that maybe you'll see his side, and that, well, I mean, it's already like we're married anyway. I mean, it's really it's really no harm, no foul. Because like I said, if we can avoid it, we'll avoid it. It's nothing against you. You could be the best girl for us, and we can acknowledge that. But most of us ain't really with the trying to get married thing. Like, it's why? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an old saying, and I don't like it. I never have. But why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? And the milk is everywhere. Like, that shit's all over the place. I mean, you don't even have to really go looking for that shit these days. It's just there. So why are we going to work that hard and give away that much of ourselves if we don't have to? So a lot of men will string relationships along way longer than a lot of women intend to. And then, unfortunately, for the ones who it doesn't pay off for in the end, 5 years later, 7 years later, and you've reached the amount of time that you're willing to wait, now you're leaving and starting over. You're 5 to 7 years older, sometimes 10. You might have even had a kid or two, and now you're trying to start over. And while you might have learned that lesson, that look, the next dude I meet, the next relationship I get into, I'm going to have this conversation from the jump. But now the problem is, the value's different. The real estate's different. Because you really can't meet a woman. I'm 33. So anybody in the age group between 28 to 35, the chances of any man, whether he has kids or not, whether he is dealing with someone that he is trying to co-parent with or not, the odds of any man between the ages of 28 and 35 meeting a woman in that age group who doesn't already have at least a child or two are 10 to 1. I mean, you're way more likely to meet a woman who has multiple kids than you are to meet a woman who doesn't have any. I mean, it gets to the point where you already have the mindset as a man now, and the age groups that I mentioned, that any woman that you meet who's going to be halfway decent for you is going to have at least one kid, at least. So the problem at that point comes in where you don't really have much to bargain, because now the caliber of the men that you're dealing with in this age group have also dealt with whatever women they've dealt with, and they might have some type of issues or drama with the child that they had with this other woman. So now in their head, they're never getting married. They're avoiding that shit like the plague. And now you women who are more experienced, because you've dealt with that side of it, you come in and you're like, well, yo, look, I already got 2 kids. I've been through this, and that. I wasted 7 years in a relationship. I need to know right now, like, what's your intentions? What do you see yourself as far as marriage and all of that? You're not necessarily going to scare that dude away, but understand that dude is looking at you like, bitch, like, who Who the fuck you think? Like, you got nothing to bargain with me here. Like, you already got kids. You washed up in these streets for the most part. I'm going to deal with you because, one, I know you need help. And two, you know you need help. So even if you start to give certain, start to set certain standards, or you put out these certain guidelines for a potential relationship, that dude is not going to respect it. Because from his standpoint, relationships and dating, it's all a chess game. And you how you play your moves and how you approach different strategies to that game, it's really dependent on the amount of pieces and the quality of those pieces you have left on the board. You can't come at me with a board full of only pawns left, and you trying to check me here and there. This shit don't work that way. You're already playing from behind. You're losing the game. And I'm being harsh because I need you women to understand, like, this is how a very, very vast majority, percentage-wise, of men think. And it's not all because it comes from a ill place. It's because a lot of us deal with shit too. And it takes a man a lot less. I want y'all to hear me real good on this, what I'm about to say. It takes a man a lot less in the way of experiences, bad experiences with women, to become bitter and cold-hearted than it takes women. There are bitter women, but it's after multiple relationships. It's after years and years and years of going through, the same shit, dude after dude, relationship after relationship. A man can have one bad experience with one woman and, the game's over. Like, hang that shit up. I'm not fucking with you. You not fucking with me. Like, anything past us doing what we doing, you could wrap that shit up and forget about it. And that's how men are. Like, we don't allow for that same level or that same threshold when it comes to certain shit. Now, we'll still go through the motions. We'll still fuck with whoever we might meet and we might think we're into, but it's different. We show it less. We do more of those things that are not geared toward being as attentive as you might want that man to be. Because I guess you could say we're petty. Like, we go through one heartbreak or we go through one bad relationship, and we'll admit it too. It's over for any chick I ever meet after this, because, like, it's true that the good men aren't respected until so late in the game that a woman's been through all of the fuck shit already, but now she's 30, 33, 35 with 2-3 kids on her hip looking for help. Maybe a good woman, but you're going to have a hard time, because the men that you're going to meet at 33, if you're 33 yourself, the man that you're going to meet at 33, he's probably been married. He's probably divorced. He at least has a kid or two. He might be a good dude as well. He might have learned from those mistakes as well, but a lot of us are meeting each other too late in the game, too late in life. And it's not the people. It's the shit that we've dealt with in the past and not being able to have the foresight to get out of those situations sooner than later, and we're all guilty of it. And then so what happens is you can meet the best person for you, and you can be the best person for them. But just because of timing and experiences that haven't been favorable to you, the whole game is different. Like, the whole game, the way it looks is totally different. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it just is what it is. So if you're single, if you're younger than 30, 31, 32, and you're single and you haven't been through this hard life lesson yet, the first I'll say to you, any dude that you meet that you really like, that you're really into, you're really thinking about, that dude could potentially be the dude that you might want to get into a long-term relationship with. You need to lay that shit out from the beginning. Like, within the first 3 to 6 months. It needs to be mentioned early on from the beginning. Like, once you've had a few dates, you've been chilling, hanging out, and doing whatever y'all doing, once it starts to feel like it's more than just two people talking and going out, once every couple weeks, once you start to feel like the nature of that relationship is starting to take on a different shape, you need to mention what your end goal is. And by end goal, I mean, if you are the type of person who sees yourself married one day, if you're the type of person who sees yourself having kids one day. These things have to be mentioned because you're giving that dude a chance to decide if he's serious or not. And two, you're giving yourself a chance to gauge what his actions are going to be like towards you immediately after you say that. Because the dudes who aren't with that, they might not turn around and run from the relationship, but through their actions, they're going to start to show you that y'all not on the same page when it comes to what life goals potentially both parties have. But when I say you need to see if a dude is serious or not, and this is where I think most women get it twisted when they think that if they mention some of these things too early in a relationship, they'll scare a dude off. It's not about scaring a dude off. You can't really, whatever attracted a man enough to you to at least try to get with you in those earlier stages, you're not really going to scare that man off. Because most real niggas ain't set up that way. I mean, we're gonna rock it out for the most part. But when I say things that need to be mentioned within the first 3 months of a relationship, it has nothing to do with you trying to see if that dude is serious about you, because he's not. There's no way in hell. He just met you. He don't know you. It's been 3 months. He's probably still dealing with another chick. It takes most dudes 3 to 6 months anyway if they're dealing with someone to decide if they want to stop dealing with all the other women they might be dealing with. It just is what it is. And a lot of you women are the same way, so let's not even split hairs with that shit like I'm saying something wrong, because I'm not. It's just real shit. But what you're doing is you're looking to see if that dude is serious about the aspect of a relationship. Because if a dude who's nowhere near ready for a relationship period will hear something like marriage or kids down the line or whatever the case within the first 3 months, and he'll excuse himself, he'll exit stage left from that relationship before it even starts. But I think, and I wish you women could be a little bit stronger mentally and a little less eager emotionally to get attached to someone, because I think it's the fear of chasing even potentially good men away, is that you just, I'm not going to say nothing, I'm just going to go with whatever, maybe once I get him to like me, then we can have these conversations. It don't work that way, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. And regardless of if someone ever stopped by to tell you, women, or not, or regardless of if you see it this way or not, but we as men are way more equipped to waste 5, 7 to 10 years in a relationship and get back out there and start over again. You women, not so much. Like 5 to 7 years, 10 years for a woman makes a hell of a lot of difference than it does for a man, because there are older women who keep up with themselves, they take care of themselves, and they look good. But mileage on a woman and mileage on a man looks totally different. It's totally different. I mean, men tend to become more distinguished as we get older, tend to look more mature, and that will always be attractive to women. It's always been. But for certain men, it don't matter how you look. If you pass a certain age, for certain men who are already by default intimidated by the maturity level, for the most part, as a default that women have over them, and which I think nature compensates for by making it so that men are typically attracted to younger women and younger women are typically attracted to older men. I think this is a natural balance of the fact that women, for the most part, do mature at a slightly higher rate than men do. Not me, because I'm right there with you. I can get with a 45-year-old and still be mentally ahead of her. But I'm different. Everybody ain't built like me, so don't even try it. But yeah, so I think a lot of you women are so afraid of getting emotionally attached to someone that doesn't want the same things that you want long term, that you don't even mention it. And so what happens is you think by not mentioning it, I hope you women don't think by not mentioning it that we'll bring it up at some point, because most of us won't. But if you set those standards, if you issue those demands early on, and that's what you command for yourself in that relationship from the beginning, even if that dude wasn't thinking about that. We operate off of respect. So we'll respect the fact that you're issuing these demands from the beginning. So we'll approach you and the relationship with a whole different tone as far as respect goes. And you women, if you start doing that, you'll get a lot farther. Um, Other than that, man, let me get y'all feedback. Yo, hit me up on Twitter. I've been getting some messages, some direct messages with a lot of questions and topics that people want me to talk about. I'm gonna get to it, but it's all about timing though. So if you already hit me up on Twitter, you want me to talk about something, just keep tuning in, and I'm sure I'll get to it eventually. It's just sometimes, moving through the day to day, I come across something, so I gotta that has to take precedence because it's fresh on my mind and it happened right there. But other than that, let me know what y'all think of this one, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love.